Now for global business updates, is Rotus Oddiri joining us, although he's preparing to go on leave.
One more day to go. One more day. Dr. Abasi, good morning.
We'll recall you, bro, that leave.
It happens, oh. It happens here. Rufai, good morning. Bimbai, good morning.
They say you're not going on one more week.
That's it. Look, it happens.
No,
breaking news, have you? Let's quickly get the one above all.
The one above all says you have to add extra.
I have to obey all I do. All right, let's start with Asia markets. They pulled back a little bit from the highs that we saw on Wednesday, although liquidity in China now, I understand it's past 2 trillion yuan. That's almost $280 billion. So lots of liquidity there, but mixed bag. Hong Kong pulling back, Nikkei in Japan pulling back as well. The other big news, aside from a lot of earnings on Tencent, Lenovo, and others, DeepSeek, Financial Times is reporting that DeepSeek has had some delays in releasing their R2 model. Remember when their R1 model came out earlier in the year, it made a lot of noise. But apparently it's because they are using Huawei's chips. You can use chips to train the data for the models and then also get training for inference, and it's showing that the US does indeed have leverage with the NVIDIA chips because of these delays. So, but there's another rare earth critical mineral discussion to be had on who has leverage where. So that's what we're understanding, that so far they've not been able to release it. They should have released it since their AI model since May, but they haven't been able to do that. So China's insistence on its domestic markets developing these chips, they have limitations compared to the technology coming out of the United States. We got UK GDP that just came in this morning. The UK actually rebounded in June from the contraction of 0.1% that we saw in May. On a quarterly basis, 0.3% growth. It's still very, very tepid. Liz Keown, who is an economist at the Office of National Statistics that released it. By the way, this is preliminary data, likely to be updated. She said services also drove growth in June. With scientific research and development, engineering, and car sales. I do want to make sure that the Tinubu administration is noting all this as they want to get to $1 trillion economy. Scientific R&D, engineering, car sales, aka STEM, all have strong month. Within production, which recovered, manufacturing of electronics performed especially well. The UK is a $3-4 trillion economy. These are the things that you need. Going to the United States, Bullish, which is the latest IPO, that initial public offering, it absolutely popped yesterday. And the shares were this is again the Peter Thiel-backed cryptocurrency exchange that allows you to trade crypto on their website. They essentially, the shares were priced between $32 to $33. The thing popped at $150. I mean, at one point, trading was halted because of the rise. I think it settled at about $74 a share. They raised about $1.1 billion. The owners now are billionaires overnight. And that's the chairman to the left, I think the CEO to the right. It raised, it's valued now at about $5 billion. So again, the US market, it is 75% of the market cap of the entire globe. So it's just the deepest, most liquid capital market. And you keep seeing billionaires just made overnight with all these new IPOs that pop up and down. Still on crypto, but now for stable coins. And when the Genius Act was passed, which was supposed to legalize or rather regulate stable coins in the US, we did talk about how different parties would be affected. Western Union, we understand now, is considering issuing a stable coin in order to facilitate cross-border payments. So not within the US, because there's a lot of competition there, but it's looking at, for outside the United States, issuing its own stable coin. And again, this is a disruptor because if your relative overseas can send you some stable coins, which has a 1-to-1 value with the US dollar, you can convert it and just get your dollars just like that. So this is really setting up to be a big disruptor for traditional financial services firms. Visa, MasterCard, they're all looking to be impacted by this. Scott Bessent was on Bloomberg yesterday, said a lot of things. It's really interesting to see the fiscal side dictating monetary policy. He said the Federal Reserve should cut rates by 50 basis points in September. He said the U.S. rates should be 150 to 175 basis points lower. He even went to talk about Japan. I remember how we've been talking about U.S. interference lately here, especially here in Nigeria and other parts. He said that Japan also, they are behind the curve, that the Bank of Japan should hike rates. He said the tax on NVIDIA's chips being sold to China is basically Trump's idea. And then he talked about Russia and this meeting in Alaska tomorrow. He mentioned the fact that, okay, if there will be consequences for Russia if they don't come to a peace deal with Ukraine. And he mentioned that, okay, we also have these tariffs on secondary sales to India. The journalist that was there asked him, what about China? China is the biggest buyer of Russian oil. And, well, listen to his answer.
I think everyone has been frustrated with President Putin. We expected that he would come to the table in a more fulsome way. It looks like he may be ready to negotiate. And we've put secondary tariffs on the Indians for buying Russian oil. And I could see if things don't go well, then sanctions or secondary tariffs could go up.
What about China? They're the main purchasers of Russian crude.
Again, I'm not going to get ahead of the president, but the president is the best at creating leverage for himself, and he will make it clear to President Putin that all options are on the table.
So one of the reasons why the U.S. is yet to do anything with China is because China has leverage. I mean, U.S. has leverage with chips, but I wanted to bring everyone's attention to a critical. We talk a lot about rare earths and critical minerals. There's one particular critical mineral called antimony. I think it gets its name from Latin or something, an antimonium. It is used in hardening bullets. It is used in laser-guided missiles, night vision binoculars, what else? Batteries. China stopped exports of antimonium in September before Trump even came into office, and it is one of its methods of leverage that it's using on the United States right now. In fact, a lot of companies that need it for defense, for electric vehicles, and so on and so forth. This is one of the. So as we see this 90-day reprieve until November, it's going to be interesting to see how trade talks emerge. But for now, as far as rare earth minerals are concerned, the U.S. Defense Agency, the U.S. Defense, China really has this leverage with antimony. And then I think finally the stock exchange. I mean, I know there was a retraction yesterday. The Nigerian Stock Exchange is still on fire. Just look at these returns as of August the 12th, so subsectors. Insurance is over 108%, consumer goods 87%, industrial goods, that's for cement and so on, 52%, banking 48%, NGX 30%. Oil and gas is down because of where prices are, but we're still well over 40% year to date on our exchange here in Nigeria.
Okay, well, we seem to have run out of time.
One more day.
Yeah, but we look forward to the meeting tomorrow in Alaska between President Trump and President Putin.
Yeah.
Although Catherine Leavitt was saying, well, it's a listening exercise for the president, trying to downplay
expectations.
But meanwhile, oil prices, spot price, oil futures have moved up. Both WTI and
Brent.
the Brent futures doing much better than they did as of Wednesday when they went down. And then Trump is still threatening. He says he has shortlisted 11 people who will take over from
Jerome Powell,
the chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell. We'll see how that goes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.